Rev your engines and fasten your seatbelts. It's time for Thunder Talk with Dan Bailey, keeping you up to date on everything going on this season at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thunder Talk is powered by Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Now, here's your host, Dan Bailey.
Welcome, race fans, to another edition of Thunder Talk. I'm Dan Bailey. I want to remind you this Friday night, big deal, big show, big event at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Not only is it the 2020 season championship presented by your very own Leighton Broadcasting and Budweiser, one of the longest running racing promotions in the area, might I add. But we've also got two $5,000 to win makeup features after Mother Nature came through and rained on our parade last Friday night for the Dairyland Showdown. That's right. Those super late models and the USRA Modifieds will be competing again this Friday night for the $5,000 to win features. And in addition to that, we'll have a full program for the super late models. It's also MTS Free County Fans Night number 6. So if you can show proof of residence that you are from Jackson County, Wisconsin, Winona County, Minnesota, or Alameda County, Iowa, you get into the grandstands absolutely free. Just bring your driver's license. That's all they'll need to see. It's going to be a great night. I talk each and every week with drivers and competitors and racers about what it's like hitting the track. But you and I watch those racers from the grandstands, don't we? That's what we love about the sport. And capturing that speed and excitement in a snapshot brings us this sport from another angle. I would love to welcome to the program Tyler Rinken from Tyler Rinken Photography, who captures all the action, whether it's digital photograph, whether it's video, whether it's graphics design. He's the man that helps us see even better what we just experienced at the racetrack. So Tyler, welcome to this week's edition of Thunder Talk.
Hey Dan, I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to be a guest of part of your show. Obviously, you've had a lot of great names from Mississippi Thunder, so I feel very honored to be a part of it.
It's amazing when we, as race fans, sit in the grandstands or down in the infield or wherever we might be, and we watch a race. Then we look at some of your photographs after the fact. Sometimes it's mind-blowing how you catch some of the action that we might have missed or that we might have seen from a different perspective. My first question for you is how? Why? When? What got you into this world of racing photography and video work and graphics design work?
It's actually kind of a fun little story for me personally. So I've actually always been around dirt track racing. I grew up with it when I was younger. My family had a cousin that used to race, so I got to know some of his friends that also used to race too. So this isn't just something I just stumbled upon, every Friday or Saturday night. I've been around the sport for a very long time. It wasn't until I was a senior in college when I first realized that, hey, this is kind of something that I might be interested in. And I actually borrowed a camera from a Luther College professor on campus there at Luther. And I went down to my local racetrack here in Decorah, Upper Iowa Speedway, and I just started taking some pictures. One thing led to another and just kind of started building up a connection base. And it's gotten to me to the point where I can make a living off of it now and pay for those college loans that I got from Luther.
In addition to your love of the sport, growing up around racetracks like you just told us, have you always been interested in visual arts, photography, etc.?
Honestly, no, not really. It actually is just kind of like the dirt track racing thing. It kind of just sprung on me a little bit. I have a really close friend back here in Decorah that also does a lot of video production and photography stuff as well. And he's actually one of my hunting buddies too. And it was just one of those things that we kind of stumbled upon around that time frame in 2013, 2014, that we were just going to start to videotape our hunts. And together, both him and I, we both got a $300 camera that we split together. We split ownership of the camera. And ultimately, I think that's kind of where it all started was, hey, the hunting stuff is really great too. Can I apply it to something else that's going to be kind of a passion of mine, which is dirt track racing. So that's kind of where it actually all got started. The whole visual art stuff was within the hunting part of it.
I was looking at your SmugMug web account, which is tylerrinkenphoto.smugmug.com, and it's pretty impressive where this has led you. You have been all over the United States, basically, photographing, filming, catching those highlight moments from good old-fashioned stock car racing. Who do you love visually capturing on film, or where do you like going to get some great photos?
That's a really great question. To kind of put it all in perspective, last year in 2019, I had almost 95 nights in at a track across the country. Some form of an aspect of racing, and they were all dirt track racing related. Each track is really different. I have my tracks that I really enjoy shooting at. There are tracks I really enjoy going to new tracks because they always find new ways to kind of capture it. If I had to narrow it down, Mississippi Thunder is actually one of my favorite racetracks to shoot at. There's a lot of opportunities inside the racetrack, outside the racetrack. The visual aspect of the racetrack, how it kind of looks like you're racing in the middle of the Canadian wilderness, and the way the sunlight comes in and shines on sunsets and stuff like that. So that's a really fun place to shoot. But actually, my number one favorite racetrack that I like to shoot at is Arizona Speedway, which is home to the Wild West Shootout for a week and a half in early January. And you get all the mountains in the background, and the sunsets are amazing, and that's definitely probably my favorite place to shoot at.
You've been able to get into the sport and this profession, snapping photos of such a high-speed sport. So what does it take on your end to make sure that you're really getting down to the essence of your photo?
I've always kind of joked around that if people actually saw what's on my camera at the end of the night and they realized how many bad photos I do take from time to time. Look at sprint car racing for an example. Sprint cars are probably arguably the fastest thing on dirt, right? Second to open super late models. And I'm not going to lie, it takes me a good chunk of the night to get photography for sprint cars down, because they are going so fast, and there's a lot of motion with the sprint cars, and you're turning your body and you're bringing your camera with it, so you got to have your settings right. If your settings aren't equivalent to how you are acting with your camera, your photo is going to be off, and it's not going to be a good photo. So sprint car racing is very, very difficult. So you really kind of have to know your camera, and you also kind of have to know the shot that you're wanting to do. It's just like the game of baseball. Game of baseball, you fail 7 times out of 10 and your batting average is 300 for your whole career, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Same type of principles for dirt track racing. 7 out of 10, those photos aren't the greatest, but if you can pull off 3 of them with a really cool pan shot and the sunsets and the crowd and stuff like that, perfect. That's the ultimate goal. That's what we're kind of looking for. So you really kind of have to have in your mind kind of what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Have you had very many unexpectedly magic moments where you weren't planning a photo and you just captured something totally unexpected that ended up being a perfect shot?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of photos that I have. There's 2 specifically that kind of come to my mind. At those times, those photos, it was just a driver in his race car, and the other photo was just a guy celebrating victory lane. It took a little bit for those photos to kind of come full circle. They didn't mean much to me at that time, but now they have. Mm-hmm. You kind of go through the motion of what's not necessarily important to you, but it's to someone else that could be, and you just never know. Was this his 50th career win? Was it his 75th career win with his grandfather in victory lane? So that's just kind of one of the things that you get lucky with some of that stuff, and then also at the same time too, like you just don't know how meaningful a photo is going to be until 2-3 years down the road.
Exactly. We are looking day in and day out at so many photos on whatever digital media we might be utilizing, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or just, on a website. And that leads me into my next question. Have you ever photographed on film, or have you always been digital, or do you mix and match with both of them?
When I first got started, I was probably 90% stills, and then 10% video. Actually, now the way that it kind of works out, I'm actually probably, I would say, almost 80% video and then 20% stills. Over time, you grow as a content creator. Now it's kind of also rare that in the industry you have somebody that can do both. Like myself, I think of some really great videographers, and I think of some really great photographers. 2 of the individuals that I look up to the most, we've literally had this conversation, the 3 of us together in one setting. The videographer's like, I can't take pictures, and the photographer's like, well, I can't take videos. But it's great to both do both videos and pictures for sure.
Well, there's also a third aspect to your artistic form, and that's graphics design work that you do. Some people may not know what we're talking about, but if you go to a racetrack, a lot of times the drivers will have what we in the sport refer to as a driver card or a hero card. It might be a photo of them or their car, maybe some sponsors, and it gives them a medium upon which they can maybe sign an autograph for a young race fan. I looked through some of your graphics design work, and it's visually spectacular. How long has it taken you to conquer that art form? Because they are spectacular.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The graphic design was something that I kind of started dabbling into a little bit in 2015. So it would have been a year after I started taking photos, and just one of those things, you start off and it's just, just like every hobby, no matter what you do, if it's the woodworking or remodeling or quilting or whatever, you start off and you're like, this is really good, but I know there's always room for improvement. And then you fine-tune your craft. To me, my inspiration is individuals I look up to. If you see how they're doing stuff, it's crazy to look back at stuff that I did in 2015 when I first got started into Photoshop, and to what I'm creating now. To me, it just blows me away because of how far I've come. It's a really fun thing to do.
If you could only photograph one class for the rest of your life, one class of motorsports, where does your heart lie? What could you photograph over and over and over and over and never get tired?
Some people within the industry, they're strictly sprint car guys, or they're strictly late model guys, or they're strictly modified guys. Obviously, to me, I'm a modified guy at heart, right? With some of the best two racetracks, modified racing in the country right here in southeast Minnesota and Wisconsin with Mississippi Thunder. So, a lot of those guys I see every weekend, and they're great, great, great drivers. And then traveling around with the US MTS and photographing those guys. To me, whatever class is on track. If I'm photographing sprint cars for the rest of my life, then, so be it. That's great. But sprint cars are a lot of fun. Late models are a lot of fun. Modifieds are a lot of fun. And I definitely think the venues, wherever they're at, the venues really add into that too. So that's a tough question. It's going to change tomorrow. I might wake up and say, hey, I'm a late model guy for the rest of my life, but you just never really know.
Well, Tyler, I say thank you for the beautiful visuals that you have been providing through your career as a motorsports photographer, videographer, and graphics designer. And I would point all of you listeners to Tyler's SmugMug account, tylerrinkenphoto.smugmug.com. That's tylerrinkenphoto.smugmug.com. Tyler, again, I will repeat it. Thank you very much for the beautiful visuals that you have been providing year after year in the motorsports industry. And as well, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Thunder Talk.
Yeah, Dan, I greatly appreciate it. And if I could, real quick, just want to say a huge, huge thank you to everybody at Mississippi Thunder, especially Bob and Tyrone and their staff, and what they have done this year has been tremendous. And they've really stepped up, and they've provided a lot of opportunities for fans and drivers. And it's been a really great year at Mississippi Thunder. So I'm looking forward to Friday night season championships. And then, of course, we have the Mod Nationals coming up, too. So still some really great racing taking place. What I consider my home Friday track in Mississippi Thunder, and it's a bucket list track. So I really appreciate you giving us the public address every Friday night. It's been a really great year there.
That was Thunder Talk, keeping you up to date on everything going on at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Thunder Talk is powered by Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram.
You ever notice that when you're on a fishing trip, you drive your boat all the way to the other side of the lake because you think that's where the best fishing is? And the people staying at the cabins on that side of the lake, well, they come and fish where your cabin is. You don't have to drive a long ways to catch the big fish. And at Arcadia Motors, you don't have to drive a long ways to get the best deal on a new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram truck. The best deals are right in the bay next to your cabin. Take the short, scenic drive to Arcadia Motors. ArcadiaDodge.com.